Oh, hello there, Internet, and welcome to episode number 92 of Final Boss TV, your Wild and Gay rating show. I am your host, my name's Adam K.A.K.A. Bane. Today's episode is the first of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This many. We're doing 8 of these episodes. They're called the Warlords of Ketchup. As a play on words, it's a catch-up mechanic show to get everyone set up for what's changing with Tier 18, the ring meta, how best to use this stupid thing, how talents might or might not be changing for classes we haven't talked about since Highmall. So a lot of things to keep up with this, of course. The show is like a two-parter. So everything before the normal show break will be things that are changing for the classes, talent specs, stuff like that. And then once we get into after the break, we'll basically be sitting here with a live Q&A session with our guests and with the chat room. So we're kind of pushing the after show together to kind of see how that feels for these, because they're sort of like a figure out what chat wants to know and what out there is who knows what's happening. So without further ado, of course, who are my guests today? If you were here for the pre-show, you know, or if you can read, you can. But it doesn't matter! The first one up, which I'm going to give a whole lot of guff this whole episode, is Callie, also joined by Jordy LaForge. Hi, Callie.
Hi. Actually, Jordy kind of fell off.
Oh, Jordy fell down? No!
Yeah, he wasn't very secure.
Oh, man.
Yeah, what he's referencing is I have this giant poster that's literally larger than myself of Jordy LaForge, and it was hanging behind me, but it decided it didn't want to hang out with us. So, yeah.
Jordy got beamed up, man.
Yep.
I'm so sad. That was at the highlight of the show. That and Demon Hunter talk.
Yeah.
Hey man, he tripped. He's blind. So.
He can see things.
Blinder. He is not truly blind, okay?
Not truly blind.
He has the technology.
He does. Glad to have you back on the show again. Talk about Windwalker Monks today. A little bit, maybe. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Mostly Demon Hunters, though, right?
Well, yeah, because Windwalker Monks are all re-rolling. Because, you know, the hunt there that it's not intentional, but has to be said.
Oh, crap baskets. Also joining us talking about Feral Kitty Cat Mew Mew Mews. There's Tinderhoof, sir. Hello. The beard looks amazing. How you doing?
Howdy. Thank you.
You all set for this? Apparently,
I am all set.
We haven't talked about feral cats in a little while, but hopefully there's some things to discuss with your community. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
We have all the stuff. Everyone's gonna roll Demon Hunter. No.
Damn it! Alright, fine. Last but not least, Vigi, help me out here. Can you... Hello! Are you rolling Demon Hunter too?
No. Rogues will not be rerolling Demon Hunter unless you get to, like, Highmall levels of bad.
Yes! So... Okay, so we're 2 for 2 so far. So 2 for Demon Hunters, 2 for not Demon Hunters.
Yeah, we're gonna be ninjas and pirates, so, yeah.
Well, hopefully you'll be ninjas and pirates.
I mean, hopefully.
They have said this before, but we'll see.
I know. They've been saying it since MOP beta, so yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll see what comes. A lot of class changes are happening.
Yeah.
But before we, of course, we get into all that, no need to future sight this kind of stuff. How are you all, friends? Everything's been going. I'll go back in the opposite direction. Vigi, you want to open us up with rating stuff, maybe some things in the real lives, or why people should know about you on the internet?
Japan is working on Mythic Archimon right now, working on Phase 3. It's a bitch. I don't know. I've lost like 95 pounds since BlizzCon.
Right. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I don't know. I'm also kind of going through a transition period in life, you could say. But yeah, nothing else really.
Evolution period. Evolution period.
Yes.
Please. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah.
Chat room likes your lamp, apparently. That's amazing.
It's a nice lamp.
Indeed.
It is a nice lamp. So.
Tinder, anything?
Antisocial Club. I switched 3 months ago, and we're working on Manaroth right now.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be getting it done soon.
You're on Manaroth now, been almost a full reset, right?
We got to him. We started working seriously on Thursday, so we've had 1 full day, and we're going to be doing more tonight.
How's that fight? Not fun? Fun?
I think it's more fun than Zool. He sucked.
Oh,
I hate that fight so much.
I'll be on Zul'Harrak after the reset. I'm not looking forward to it. And Callie, bring up the caboose.
Well, so I'm hopefully going through some major life changes in real life. We'll see. It's kind of a huge pipe dream that I'm really working toward right now. Past that, I heard I was going to be on the show, so I decided, you know what? I guess it's time to go join another guild. So I joined the Antisocial Club today. Got the invite about an hour ago. It's pretty good.
You're probably like the weirdest real life track record with like having issues with time management and like schedule changes. Like people might like, man, this girl just leaves all these guilds and just hops around. But no, it's like
I was in Temerity for a little over a year, actually.
Right.
Defenestrate just didn't work out, and Promethean, they're great people, but Windwalker hasn't been that important in progression, and they have their own recruiting strategies.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Hopefully things work out for you. Obviously, too, like, depending on how schedules work and when you can raid, when you can't,
Yeah.
and you have a big...
Yeah, it's going to
big
be a lot
changes
easier
soon.
for me. Yeah, it's going to be a lot easier for me to raid in a PST guild versus one that's like 5 in the afternoon for me.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Yeah.
So, when last we spoke, we're going to go around in a circle here before we get into more general topics. I want to see if anything has really changed majorly that you can pinpoint for the Windwalker Monk community, as you so lovingly put it in the intro. So anything in here, gearing, focus, weapon choices, enchanting, gemming goals, thoughts on the tier 18 bonuses? How has stuff been like working out for Windwalker in tier 18?
So,
a big overview.
if you're the rare unicorn that actually gets gear because your guild is actually going to bring you in for progression.
Oh my god.
Sorry, I had to bring that. Well, the big thing for Windwalker right now is obviously go with two-handed staff. There are some that are using dual wield right now, which is not actually a bad choice. The big thing that comes down to is what fight you're working on, whether or not you're using Chi Explosion for that fight. If you're using Chi Explosion, the two, I think they're one-handed maces that have haste and multi-strike on them are awesome because haste is awesome for Chi Explosion. Otherwise, right now, our best in slot is actually the Manaroth staff, same as Druids. In terms of your gearing focus, get your class trinket, even if it's normal mode, even if it's heroic, get your force set. They work so well in conjunction. In terms of your enchants and other gearing stuff, versatility is not a bad stat. It's a boring stat, but it's not a bad stat.
Right.
Whenever you're doing single target, once your multi-strike hits 59%, you're going to be going into versatility. Yes, you can cry. We all are. But it's going to be better for you. If you're using Chi Explosion more, go more into haste. That's probably why we're seeing a lot more logs with Chi Explosion, is the fact that people don't like versatility. It's just not an interesting stat. So that's kind of the TLDR of Windwalker right now, is cry with us about versatility.
What's the de facto factor on why haste and Chi Explosion work well together? Just to lay that out.
Because you're basically dumping your load every time you hit Chi Explosion. So in our single target rotation, you dump your load in about 2 to 3 GCDs, whereas with Chi Explosion, it's 1.
Oh.
So there's kind of a major difference there.
So it's all about, I guess, the haste for energy regeneration and just like this getting through the load dumping, as you say?
Yeah, basically. So the more Chi you want to generate as much Chi as you can for Chi Explosion is what it comes down to. Whereas with our single target, we get all kinds of combo breakers. We get Serenity and Tiger Strikes all devalue haste for us at the moment.
And yeah, what's the mystical math behind the whole 59% multi-strike again?
That's roughly where our cap is because of Tiger Strike procs and things like that and our weapon procs. So yeah, that's when you're basically wasting some.
So weapon enchant then is still multi-strike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and for dual wield, you'd kind of have to sim what's working out for you best, whether it's the crit one, which is actually a pretty awesome enchant because it doesn't work exactly how you think it would. Multi-strike, it procs, oh, you have more multi-strike, whereas with the crit one, you can actually extend it for a really long time if you get a lot of crits. The other one is actually the haste enchant, which is also pretty cool. So
interesting.
Yep.
And then for like gemming and enchanting, then you just want to go to the multi-strike 59% and then just go haste afterwards, or versatility depending on if you're doing two-hand or dual wield?
It actually depends whether or not you're using Chi Explosion or Serenity, so whether or not it's single target or multi-target.
So it's more on the talent determines
the
difference.
Talent determines what you want.
So Chi Explosion, Dual Wield, and Haste, because I imagine you just get more.
Yeah.
Okay. And
yeah,
then
because
Serenity
it's mostly because of the weapon itemization right now.
Right.
The 2 one-handers actually have haste on them.
Ah, yes, okay. And Serenity is all about 2-hand and the multi-strike, and then versatility afterwards.
Yeah, and either of them you can use 2-hand. The thing is that 2-hand and dual wield don't necessarily change anything other than what your weapon animations look like, your enchant choices, because dual wield obviously can have 2 different weapons, and some things with Way of the Monk that most people never have to think about.
So Hurricane Strike is still a piece of garbage?
It doesn't exist.
Oh,
Yeah.
it doesn't exist.
You only have 2 talents for level 100.
All right.
I guess unless you PvP, in which case you still basically just have 2.
Okay. Alrighty then. I think that's a good way to sum stuff up. Tinderhoof, sir, Feral Druids, Kitty Cats, Mew Mew Mew. Same kind of thing? How is Tier 18 working out? Weapon stuff, enchants, gems, whatever?
Yeah, the weapon
Overview.
is still, just like Callie said, it's the staff off Manaroth.
Okay.
I mean, it's whatever highest eye level staff you can get your hands on, but it is the highest eye level and probably has better stats than most what's available. We still like crit. Crit is still king for everything. If you were trying to make a multi-target build, you can emphasize mastery more.
Okay.
We don't actually have as much choice as we used to. The Blackrock Foundry gear was a lot better itemized than Hellfire is. We have a lot of mastery and multi-strike or mastery haste stuff this time around. But for the most part, I mean, if you're going to emphasize single target, which is significantly better, you're going to want to be emphasizing crit and then multi-strike, and then everything else is not really that good. Like versatility is better than mastery and haste, which is kind of sad, but...
Hey, it's not you can share that monk gear, that versatility gear. You know what I'm saying? See?
No, we can pass that along.
Oh,
we always want crit multi-strike more than we want versatility.
Okay, that's fair. So then you're looking at gemming it. Is there like a magical number for crit rating that you want through like gems and chance and stuff, or?
You can start switching to switch your weapon to multi-strike if you feel you're getting to the point where you're getting not as much return on the crit. Personally, until you're hitting, like best in slot, I don't really see a whole lot of benefit to it myself. Crit is going to be better for right up until you're getting best in slot. Some people are switching to it. I still prefer crit myself.
Like, how much percentage of crit do you have with your item level? You're on Manaroth, I think, right now.
Well, I haven't actually been that lucky. My item level isn't super high. I'm hitting just under 50% with no procs, fully raid buffed. So once you get to 50%, and with no procs, with just raid buffs, you could go to multi-strike if you want, but I still prefer crit.
Okay. That sounds pretty definitive. Tier 18 bonuses working out for Feral Druid, though? Like any weird interactions or things you gotta pay attention to or of note with that?
They're really poorly designed. I really don't like them. The 2-piece bonus is it boosts our Omen of Clarity procs, which makes the next energy using ability free. And then the 4-piece is every time we have an Omen of Clarity proc, when you do the attack, not only is it free, but you get 100% refund of the energy you would have spent.
Right.
So it kind of trashes our pooling gameplay. The whole feel of how you would play as a feral is pool energy so you can use it all at once when you have trinket pox or when all of your abilities are rip needs to be refreshed. But you had a lot more control over it, and now that kind of destroys that gameplay feeling. You have to be keeping your energy very low, because if you get 2 Omen Clarity procs in a row, which happen and can happen quite often, you're just sitting at max energy the whole time. And it gets even worse because our class trinket makes Berserk go for 45 seconds. And Berserk is all of your abilities are cost half energy. So basically you're energy capped the entire time that you're under Berserk. So the two, not only do they not interact very well, it makes your 4-piece less meaningful during Berserk.
Was there like a problem with the playstyle of Feral Druid that like the community wanted to have a better like energy gameplay? Because it looks like they've went from the pool mechanic they used to have before now, and then Tier 18 is just like have all of the energy.
Yeah, it's spam everything, but the problem is that it's not consistent. So you'll have long periods of, hey, I have too much energy, I can't get rid of if I wanted to, and then sometimes you're going to be stuck with no energy waiting for a proc and stuff might fall off. So you kind of have to balance whether, do you really want to energy deplete yourself or you just want to stay capped for a long time? So it just doesn't feel good. Now, there was people complaining on the WoW forums that they wanted more energy, but the way we're designed, more energy doesn't make us better. It just lets you push buttons faster. And so that's kind of why we're stuck in a place where our current design with how our resource management works just isn't fitting well. And unfortunately, because of PvP, whereas in BlackRock we at least had really burst, we don't.
Oh no, we might lose him a
Scale
little bit. There we go. Wait.
So getting bonuses, they're getting bigger, and we scale really slowly.
I missed a little bit of that. So the scaling issue with.
Sorry.
So hitting
we just don't scale very well with gear.
Hitting more buttons on a feral druid doesn't necessarily mean a better thing for you.
No,
because...
I mean it's not like a Ret Paladin where you want to fill every GCD. There's no strategic play anymore, and just because we can hit a button every time doesn't make us better. And because of PvP, if we have a lot of burst, people complain about that. So it's either increase our bleeds, which emphasizes other problems that we have, as in we can't burst anything really quickly outside of our cooldowns. So we're kind of stuck in a place where design change for encounters doesn't mesh well with our gameplay anymore, and this as a band-aid didn't work out very well either. So we're hoping for some changes.
Yeah, well, there are plenty of classes coming on the horizon now, and I wonder because the polarities in different classes and specs from tier 17 to tier 18 were so different in some regard. Like, I know I've changed quite a bit, like what talents and a playstyle I would use from tier 17 to 17 to 18. So again, it's like they must hopefully have garnished a bunch of information on how for feral druids, do you like having lots of energy or not? Like, it's just like things they could hopefully expound upon in the future and tighten up.
We've been giving feedback to that degree, and I can see some of the issues, especially with PvP. That if our burst got any better, we could be crazy. I mean, we're glass cannons in PvP right now, anyways, and if it got worse, there would be an impact, and which is why, thank God, that's going to be not quite as much of a problem anymore.
Yeah. We'll have to see. Vigi, rogue time now.
Yes.
Let's walk through all this. It's a little bit more, obviously, because you have 3 different specs for rogue, but are they all really working out in tier 18? I guess that's the biggest question.
Okay. Well, so the rogue specs have actually kind of changed over the course of the tier so far. In fact, at the start, sub was actually really bad, but after about the first 2 weeks of Mythic, they ended up buffing sub's tier bonuses to where the 2-piece bonus went from a 10% damage increase to a 30% damage increase whenever you vanish. And the 4-piece, which gives you 5 combo points whenever you vanish, went up to... it actually started working with anticipation again. So that and Legendary Ring also really helped push sub up from bottom of the barrel to actually one of the highest DPS specs in the game at the moment.
Right, yeah, for pure single target, yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, for single target, Assassination was originally going to be better. But then sub came along and got super buffed. That has actually put Assassination in kind of a weird place in that it's kind of back to where it was in tier 17 where it's not awful, but at single target it's not better than sub. And at multi-target, combat's just flat out better.
Right.
So it's just this weird place for Assassination.
Yeah, and it went back to that. It's not bad, but both other specs for rogue are better.
Are just better. They're just better.
Yeah. So has there been swings then? I guess in subtlety or combat in like the gearing or gemming or weapon focus like
I
that.
mean, most rogues are running multi-strike, gems and enchants,
Right.
especially with the legendary gems, because like you can't really go around replacing like all your epic gems in between each fight. So, and multi-strike is the second best combat stat,
Okay.
while haste is like the worst stat for sub. In fact, 1 point of haste is worth less than half a point of multi-strike for sub. So,
Oof. It's kind of bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, haste is awful for sub and assassination.
So then, I guess if you're a rogue and you are dual gearing to go combat and subtlety, like what are you focusing on then? Obviously, you need
You should be
different
focusing.
weapons, but
Yeah. Well, outside of like rings, gems, neck, cloak, for your sub weapons, you want to have multi-strike on them. So the Frostwolf enchant. While for weapons you're specifically using for combat, use Warsong, which is the haste proc. Yeah.
Is it easy to go back and forth? There's no other like major changes you have to go through, right? I guess just weapon choices,
yeah,
not
I mean, it's
trinkets or
mostly
anything
just-
changes.
I mean, it's mostly just weapons. On some fights, as combat, you do want to use the Blade Master Talisman over Soul Capacitor. I mean, it's kind of an argument you can make either way. But, I mean, personally, I prefer Soul Capacitor over Blade Master. And Archimon Trinket's a no-brainer for all 3 specs. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Then, weapons. For subtlety, you need a dagger in your main hand, but your offhand, it's literally just a stat stick. So, like for example, on my rogue, I'm using the Mythic Zulha Rock Mace because it has a socket, and that's more multi-strike because it's crit multi-strike weapon.
Wow.
Of course, combat, you do want to have 2 slow weapons available to you, and yeah, I mean there's some gamey stuff you can do on like 5+ target sustain cleave with a dagger in your main hand as combat, but honestly, like the situations where that's viable are just not like they're just
not worth it.
few and far between. They're just few and far between, in my opinion.
So is it subtlety? Why is it that your offhand is still like garbage truck? Like nothing works with it.
Because
no interactions.
subtlety has no. Okay, technically a dagger in your offhand is slightly more because you're going to get some more poison procs, but poison procs as subtlety are just such a minuscule portion of your damage compared to backstab, ambush, eviscerate, etc.
I guess that gives you options. I wonder if that's again, we're probably gonna have that change a bunch going to Legion because they're gonna like kind of lock different specs into certain play styles. Like with Frost DKs getting 2 one-handers, they're pretty much saying that 2-hand Frost is dead.
Yeah.
I imagine that subtlety rogues will probably get 2 daggers, so the weird like dagger slow offhand will probably be dead. So we'll have to see how that fine-tunes the gameplay. Hopefully it does fine-tune it. Because stuff like that's always been weird to me. I get asked questions about Enhancement Shaman, like, why do you not put your better weapon in your offhand anymore? Are you a noob? I'm like, well, that died in Highmaul, like, 4 months ago anyway. So, yeah, there's some weird interactions with that too. But hopefully that gets fixed up into Legion. But that all sounds good. I'll move us along here. It feels weird to move the show so quickly, but I want to get to the Q&A part too. So
lots to cover.
The agility melee situation with all of us right now. We're dealing with 4 very different, some of them are pretty fun, trinkets right now that are all in contention. I know you guys have mentioned your Archimon trinket, depending on how good it is or not. But the Soul Capacitor is also a thing. How cancel aura timings work with that, and blech. And then the Bladestorm trinket is pretty damn good. And then the Malicious Sensor is kind of in a weird spot for all of us. I'll go back around in the same order again. Callie, where are the trinkets lining up for Windwalker monks? And, like, do you change them out? Do you want all 4 of them? I know I do for different fights. Like, how does it...
Yeah. So it's kind of obviously, we want the Archimon trinket for everything. The Sacred Dranic Incense is amazing for us because it gives us 1 free RSK anytime, or the chance to, anytime we use a blackout kick, the last tick of Fist of Fury, a regular Rising Sun kick, or there's some weird stuff with Chi Explosion. So yeah, that one is basically permanently in its slot. Fantastic trinket. Soul Capacitor is also a really good trinket. The problem with it is that our cleave mechanic, Storm, Earth, and Fire, doesn't really work with it that well. It nerfs our damage, but they don't get their own explosion or anything. So it's not that ideal for anything with cleaving or AoE. For that case, we usually just go with Mirror because that's the only time we get to pretend that maybe we can do a little bit of burst AoE and pat ourselves on the back because the warrior is still wrecking us. In terms of sensor, I think it's a very strong trinket. It doesn't give as much as the other options, but if it's the only one you end up with, it's not a bad option at all. I mean, it's kind of boring, but yeah, that's kind of where it stands.
So, the class trinkets, I'm glad when they first came out of the PTR, and a lot of people were like, this is garbage truck. A lot of them were very much buffed and changed and made. I know mine was like incredibly buffed. My heroic one became as strong as the mythic, and now the new mythic one, which doesn't matter exactly, will be even more powerful than it was on paper. But I'm glad that there are like kind of set and forgetty because they kind of interact well with the set bonuses. Except it sounds like the main stave of Windwalker doesn't work well with it.
Actually, it works extremely well with our, especially our, all of our set bonuses kind of work with Combo Breaker. You get more Combo Breakers, and you get them from Rising Sun kicks. So the Rising Sun kick from SDI actually does give us another Combo Breaker from our set bonuses. So it's kind of a feedback loop, like we talked about in the Windwalker show. It's your Sonic the Hedgehog trinket where you use the Combo Breaker, you get a free Rising Sun kick. Oh, but then you get another free Combo Breaker. So you can get pretty amazing RNG.
Yeah. The spin,
or really crappy. Yeah.
Spin in place. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's turning Windwalker monks sort of into Retribution Paladins, and Ret Paladins haven't liked their RNG whack-a-mole playstyle. It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah. I think a lot of classes are moving toward an RNG playstyle, though, because we get RNG from our Mastery, and now the Combo Breaker, as well as SDI, and it kind of goes on. And I'm sure that the other Melee guests can tell us about how much they just love RNG.
It's
Capacitor going to be up during my CDs.
Yeah, well, it's a weird state where from pull to pull, you're a totally different DPS. And that happens for everyone. So it sort of weighs itself out, but that doesn't feel very good individually. Like, I know no one can complain as much as Arcane Mages once we get around to having ranged DPS wrap up on the show. I'm sure it's super fun to have a chance that within the chance to be a chance, there's a chance that you'll do 400,000 DPS or 120. I'm sure that's super fun. So it's not as bad for all of us agility. I know we have a variance. I don't think any of us are seeing that sort of variance though. But again, like pull to pull of 50 to 60,000.
No one's ever going to hit Fire Mage.
No, well, Fire Mage tier 17, you mean?
Yeah.
Like that much of.
I mean, historically, Fire Mage has always been very high RNG.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. But even still, you were still resting around the top, even if it was not going well.
Yeah. That's true. How about any weird trinket nonsense with these, with everything for a Feral Druid, Tinder? What do you?
The capacitor is really good in most cases. It gets to be dangerous on some fights, particularly like Gorefiend. If you're not positioning the spirits well, you can blow them up. So you really need to be careful about that. Okay. It's much better on the fights where you're trying to do single target and you don't need to be focusing on bursting a specific add down. You can still proc it, but then it loses so much of its value. So like on Archimonde, getting a proc when a Doomfire comes up, or when you have to switch off to DPS something really quickly, it's still going to be the absolute maximum damage trinket. The Archimonde trinket is good too, but the problem with it also is if you're not going to be able to have the entirety of your Berserk while you're on target, like if you have to leave the target often or it jumps out of the way when you're going to use it, you might be able to switch off to something else. I mean, it really depends on what the fight is. We can make use of the 3 of the 4 trinkets very easily, just depending on what type of fight it's going to be. So capacitor is most of the time. Right now, I'm using it all the time because it in the class trinket is all I have. I don't have any. I don't have the sensor, and I don't have the.
Blade Master.
Yeah, the Blade Master is really good for any type of fights where you're going to have a lot of burst on ads. Like that's
Sure.
what I would replace the sensor with on fights like Iskar and Hellfire Assault. Not that Hellfire Assault's really something you have to focus a whole lot on.
It's the soul capacitor is in the long run, depending if you have the heroic or mythic version, it's just a flat DPS increase. The issue that we find now that we've as like an agility melee community, we find the ways to basically scumbag it. Where
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
Good
you
job.
That.
Fire Nova-ing the imps on Manaroth, and then moving out of range so that you don't AoE the imps, and the whole explosion hits Manaroth. Doing the same thing on Mythic Cormrock, AoEing into the hands. If you get, it's the dream. To get the
I
AoE,
know what you're talking about with like Blade.
Oh,
7,000,000
yeah.
explosions on Cormrock. Like, you move his health more than the Legendary Ring does.
All I gotta say is Soul Cap with Touch of Death.
Is that a
That's
thing
the dream.
that actually works?
Oh yeah,
How much?
it's great. I've seen it hit for over 1 million.
Just
that's actually quite
that
a lot
one
for
hit
Windwalker.
though.
Yeah.
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 The
It felt,
the hit
It feels
yeah, the
pretty
hit is pretty good. Like it's not hard to get 1 million, but it also is
for
one of those
Windwalker,
real
it actually kinda can
inconvenience.
be. Yeah.
Oh,
for us,
Windwalker, it's
we're-
difficult. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, we're noticing that we
Subrog.
aren't getting as much out of
Subrog,
it per explosion as other classes. At least I have
Hmm.
for checking logs and such.
Yeah, Subrog. Let's just say at the opening burst on a fight, I can do 300k DPS. So I don't
That-
think anyone has me beat.
Yeah. Well, you rogues have got a lot of little tricks to
Oh
up
yeah.
that first opening proc.
Of course.
Hold on, I gotta unfriend Vigi.
Oh my god. No.
Yeah.
Block on
No,
everything.
That's the weird thing, which I'll caveat this into the next topic because they kind of go together, right? What we're going to talk about oranges with Malice the Blood Drinker, which is our legendary ring. The weird interactions that I've tried to explain to chat room before when they come and ask me on the live stream is how the big thing that with the soul capacitor is cancel auraing it, and when to do it, and when not to do it. And one of the weird things right now is with the legendary ring, you gain the 25% damage increase or whatever your ring is, leveled up at into the soul capacitor, which then also has like the heroic version's like 25 and some change percentage over top of the actual full damage you do. But you want to make sure you blow up into the ring because then that gets quartered extra added because of the ring explosion. So it's all these like little stacking mechanics. Like you never want to have a soul capacitor as the ring is ending because you're just like wasting damage. You're not actually doing damage into the ring because you're being absorbed. But is like the new subtlety rogue like crazy burst stuff, Vigi, because of the weird like stacking propagations of additive percentage
Yeah,
bonuses on
kinda,
top of each other?
because- Yeah, okay, so you got Soul Cap, which, amplifies your damage by about 30%
Mhm.
for, that 10 seconds. Then you got your ring, which you've got, like, the 25% damage increase.
Yep.
And then you've also got the, pulsing Aurora at the end. But then for subtlety itself, it also has some interesting mechanics. Like, you've got your Master Subtlety at the start of a fight where after you come out of stealth, you do 15% more damage for the next 10 seconds.
Mhm.
But then you've also got the 2-piece tier 18 bonus for sub, where whenever you vanish, you do 30% more damage for the next 10 seconds. So
Oof,
right now,
right?
rogues are popping their vanish on the pull. And combined with prep, during an opening burst, you can have that 30% damage increase going for the first 20 seconds of a fight. Throw in Shadow Reflection and Shadow Dance, and you're just doing in shitloads of damage.
How does the Shadow Reflection work with storing? Does it work well with? Does it store in Soul Capacitor just fine? Does it mimic and go right into the ring?
It mostly
They fix it finally?
It stores with Shadow Reflection rather fine, but it has some interesting mechanics with the ring, namely the fact that Pathel pointed out this bug, I guess from him testing logs. If you cast Shadow Reflection before the ring goes up, you'll get the 25% damage increase on SR. But if you cast Shadow Reflection after the ring is cast, it's not going to get the 25% damage increase.
Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
It's a weird ability, and a lot of theory crafters really hate trying to model it.
Is that just because the reflection comes out after the buff is on you and doesn't get the buff because it snapshots
I
you?
think it's something like that. Honestly, I try not to get too much into like how shadow reflection works, because even for like the main like number crunchers, they hate trying to figure it out. Like they really hate it.
Does that affect like Storm, Earth, and Fire, Kelly? Like if you cast your Storm, Earth, and Fires after the ring is up, does it work? But if the ring's already up and you cast it, do they still benefit because they snapshot you? Or
Yeah, because they're kind of looking. Actually, that's something to kind of look into logs. I'm not entirely sure on it, but I'm fairly certain that they do still benefit from the ring proc.
Do they do Storm, Earth, and Fire store in Soul Capacitor properly though? Like, does that work for you?
I don't think so. No. That's part of why you don't want to use Soul Cap for most Cleave fights, is because it doesn't store it properly.
Yeah.
To my understanding, from what I've observed, at least in logs as well as gameplay, is that they continue to do damage and it's not actually stored in Soul Capacitor.
Right. Yeah, there was some weird things for enhancement shamans that like liquid magma off a normal totem wouldn't store, but then like liquid magma off a guardian totem would. I haven't really been paying attention if it actually all still works properly with everyone, but I think it all works now. I know during the PTR though, there were so many like this doesn't work, but this like overly dips, or the actual explosion doesn't do as much damage as it's supposed to do. It's like doing 118%, not 125 point something. The tooltip isn't wrong, but like the actual spell integer is like, oh god, this trinket.
Hard-coded tooltips, they're fun.
Both of you. But yeah, it's fun. It definitely is. I think the wet dream, as I've coined it, is getting quad soul caps on Mythic Deadeye with the the Vision of Death buff. That's hilarious. That is fun. It's very, very, very rare. It's kind of like a fun mini game we get to play as Agility Melee. We get to get in there and like hope for it. Every pull is a different little mini game. Obviously, the pull is going to be.
It's like a casino.
It is. It absolutely is. Yep. The one problem though is when you get like ring proc, you time your ring, with your guild, you time where your ring's gonna be used, and then you never get a soul cap. But then right when the ring pops off, soul cap goes up. You're like, yeah, it's awesome. Woo!
See, the thing is that Soul Cap is basically programmed that it's only going to proc whenever the boss is going out, whenever you have a stop DPS phase, or when you have some other mechanic making it so you can't hit the boss, or you have to cancel it early.
Or even better.
Even
better, it goes off when you have to stop DPS.
Away from going off, but I get Fell Surge, so like I gotta dump that Soul Cap there, otherwise I lose it.
Yeah.
So, well, that's the reason why the cancel aura macro exists. Obviously, you never want to.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to like when Cormac's about to jump away, and he jumps away in 3 seconds, and you've got 6 seconds left on your soul cap. You have to let it go.
Yep.
So
I actually wonder if like at the start of the at the start of Cormac, it might be worth it to not hit the boss until after he comes back from the leap, so that way you've got all the hero stuff going on.
I haven't.
I thought of it.
I haven't tried scumbagging that yet.
I've tried both ways early on progression, just because getting the first bit of damage. For me, it was better still to open them, because there's a good chance after you've been off the boss for long enough that everything is going to proc again when you get on them. It's not 100%. It's better. Also, if you get the proc right away, if you open on him there's a good chance it's going to go off on the hands and not hit him.
Right.
And then that wastes a lot of your opener by just distributing it out.
And of course, to confirm with chat, using a cancel aura macro to turn off and cancel the soul capacitor's buff will make you instantly explode for the damage stored previously. You don't lose anything, but sometimes you have to do that just to confirm with chat. Yeah.
Well, you lose the potential of what you could have thrown into it.
Sure, but
that is the potential.
If you have to cancel it to put it into the ring, or because the boss got to move, or you need to,
certain odds have to die, and you can't afford to scumbag it. Yeah.
It really is the scumbag trinket. God, it's so
like, can I get away with scumbagging these imps?
Yeah, of course.
Soul cap duration on like Manaroth.
Of course.
Or do I have to like blow my load early? And
it's it's propagated a weird place.
I actually
for
like
us
that
right
gameplay
now.
decision though.
Yeah?
To be honest. Yeah,
Hmm.
I like it. It adds thought when it procs on fights.
Now I use a weak aura to count to watch it. It's above my main buttons, where
Yeah.
I see the countdown window. I would assume in some ways every agility DPS needs to know to make a weak aura or like some way a proc watch to know when it's up. You get like the little cool like it'll hum in on your screen.
Oh yes.
But that's not good. You need to
Oh
know
no,
what's
it's
gonna happen.
not. It's not a good indicator at all.
Right.
Yeah.
You should have a weak aura for all your trinket procs. To be honest.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I actually have mine that pings me whenever a certain one goes on. So I know whenever trinket slot 1 is procced or trinket slot 2, it gives me a specific sound because
Okay.
tells me a lot more. Since you already get a lot of visual input, sometimes it is better just to use a sound weak aura versus just an icon that maybe
Sure.
I won't notice because I'm looking at my feet.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get that. For Soul Capacitor particularly though, knowing when how long the buff is on you is my
Absolutely.
thing about
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, I have a timer buff for it too.
Sure.
My only complaint with it is that it washes out my screen so much. It's actually a little bit hard for me to see world markers.
It
and
is.
I've actually
Yeah.
I've told the devs
You
this
can-
really needs to be adjusted because it's actually
You can
really
turn
hard
that
to
off.
tell. Can you?
can turn that off with a script. Yes.
Oh.
It does reduce a lot of visual effects when you do it, but yeah, you can turn it off so it doesn't go gray like that.
Yeah, I want to reduce it, not completely turn it off.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's an all or nothing though.
That's
Yeah.
unfortunate. I guess I'll have to live with it for a tier.
It's the first time we've, I think, had a trinket or effect that did this to so many different classes, like that
Yeah, it's
actually
very
like hummed in your screen like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the devs really wanted an in-your-face thing, and they did a
Of
good job
course.
with that. I just
Yeah.
feel like it's really hard to see certain
I
land
feel like they
markers,
like
things
did
that.
that like effect because they know like there are people who don't play with add-ons.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
they're
Yeah, I absolutely think that it's great to actually have that. Like I said, it's just taken a little too far because then it's hard to see. Oh, is that green or is that blue land marker?
It
Let me
does
adjust my camera.
because it totally hue shifts your entire screen.
Yep.
Yeah, the
So-
Zul'Harak, the
Nope,
fire
listen.
disappears.
No,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Green fire is really hard to see when it goes gray like that.
I'm dead.
Yep.
So I guess to go a little deeper into Malice, how impactful was Legendary Ring for like each class and spec? Obviously, Vigi, you went through the fact that like for subtlety, it's woohoo. But does it have any other interactions with assassination or combat that are of note? Like, are there any frustrations with the spec that are out to bring up?
I mean, to be honest, like I think the legendary rogue really, the legendary ring really just caters to rogues in general.
Oh, does it? Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah, he's not
Uh,
wrong.
es-
He's not wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The timing on it, yeah.
yeah,
Does-
it needs combat.
Well, other classes line up with it perfectly now too. They buffed Elemental Shaman to work with it. Arcane Mage goes with every single ring proc. They can just delay their Prismatic Crystal a little bit, which is a overall DPS gain. So there are some classes that work well with it. It doesn't work well with me. On the pull, sure. First one in, if I'm doing double totem rotation, sure. But after that, the next like third, fourth, fifth ones are all kerfuffled. Because do I wait a minute on Ascendance? Or like that's a lot of lost potential. But if I do that of times again, so it's a weird thing. I know that the Tinder, the same thing you have, because all your cooldowns are 3-minute cooldowns too. So
Yeah.
they don't.
So yeah, it doesn't work out nearly as well because like hunters and mages have it really well for them. It does
Mhm.
not cater well to us.
Mm-hmm. It's, as Binks is in chat, yeah, Elemental got buffed there. I mean, it helps though. Like you actually get to line it up and not think about it. Whereas other classes, like, do we delay? Do we prolong? What way is better? Because obviously, using the legendary rings, not on cooldown, but when they make sense in every fight, as many times as you can, because even all the overall damage increase is still there. You don't want to like not use it for a minute if you can use it, unless you need to based on the fight. But because more times that the raid gets 25% or more plus bonus damage without cooldowns or not, it's still more damage. It does lend itself to better line up with different classes, though.
Yeah, we're one of the ones that have to go, oh, do we want to delay Serenity? Do we want to use Serenity? I guess we'll delay Serenity.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
It's a awkward place again. And it's funny because we balance around now the soul capacitor goofiness with the ring timing goofiness. And it's a world of adventure. It's like, it literally is like playing a slot machine.
Adventure.
Like, yeah, adventure. Because do you get soul caps during your trinket with the ring? Do you not? Does one pull go from... It's like this huge variance of damage where you can feel like you're actually contributing to the fight.
Will you do damage? Will you heal the boss? Will you do damage?
It's an awkward place. Do you have any tips and tricks for your fellow classmates in chat for how best to take advantage of it? We'll go around with Windwalker monks first.
For taking advantage of ring with soul cap,
or just the ring in general, I guess in more
Tiger
terms.
Eye Brew.
Timing,
I mean, if you're using, Tiger Eye Brew obviously would want to be used during the ring, especially Soul Cap because it does benefit from Tiger Eye Brew. Past that, if you're using Serenity, definitely want to use Serenity. You can also save your Energizing Brew if you don't have Serenity up and you get a Soul Cap and you're maybe a little GCD starved. Go ahead, use Energizing Brew and Tiger Eye Brew, go to town. If you're using Chi Explosion, you basically have Tiger Eye Brew up all the time and not really terribly much changes. So keep doing what you're doing.
Now, you'd want to, say, throw off your Chi Explosion right after the ring goes up, right? You wouldn't want, like, the dot to roll. You want to make sure you cast as many during the ring explosion itself, or the ring storing, right?
Yeah, of course. So, you would want to still use your Energizing Brew if you have ring and or Soul Cap up.
Okay.
That's basically, I mean, Chi Explosion doesn't really get much in the way of cooldowns because Tiger Eye Brew turns into basically Savage Roar for us. So, not really terribly much changes with it.
Okay.
But I guess you could spec into Chi Brew, but even then we're still finding that Ascendance is still a good way to go with Chi Explosion for most fights. Not all, but most fights.
Okay.
Ascension is okay.
All right. How about Feral Druid shenanigans? Tinderhoof?
There's not a whole lot that we can really do with it. I normally, before the tier 18 bonus, I'd say make sure you've got as much energy as you can if you know the ring is about to be triggered. Obviously, on the pull, we're just going to blow everything up like we expect to. The biggest key is to make sure you know when it's going to go off, particularly in fights that are going to be 5 minutes, and you can delay. You're going to use your third or your second or third berserk, depending on exactly how long the fight's going to be. If you're going to use that during the execute part, and that's when the ring is going to go off, hold until the ring goes off or just before the ring goes off, so you can pour as much in. Unfortunately, if it's going to happen when berserk is off cooldown, which happens pretty often, best you can probably do is make sure you've got enough energy to pour as much shred and a ferocious bite in there as you can. If you can get 2 ferocious bites, even better. But there's a good chance you're going to be wasting energy if you do that now. So the new bonuses conflict with the ring as well because it doesn't let us plan ahead nearly as much as it used to.
I assume, looking at like talent layout stuff, which we'll get into just a little bit more in detail, but it's kind of like coast right into that. I would take it you're probably still using Blood Talons though as Feral Kitty.
That's the only talent you use,
right?
If you're raiding.
So, is there like a timing window where you if the ring is being popped, and if your raid is that the ring bearer is ringing 2 3 3 2 1.
Frodo.
You want to exactly. Do you want to make sure your Blood Talons you cast your healing touch right before?
Oh, you're not changing your rotation at all. I mean, you're still doing as many finishers as you can. You want as many Blood Talons procs, so you're going to be hitting healing touch every time, holding an attack just for the ring with a Blood Talons might help a little, but again, you may also be energy capping, and that's not helping.
Because
you're going to be using a Blood Talons every time you're going to do a ferocious bite, anyways.
Sure.
So I mean, getting 2 ferocious bites in, you're going to have a Blood Talon proc for each one of those.
Now, that's what I'm wondering about. In the 15 seconds of the ring duration, what is a perfect world, a refreshed rip and a rake, and how many ferocious bites do you want? How does that...
Well, hopefully you'll not have to refresh rip at all. Rip's just ticking.
Right.
The dream is literally you're going to get 2 ferocious bites in to a capacitor that's going to go off right before the ring goes off. That's the dream.
But 2 ferocious bites. That's the bench.
Yeah, if you can get 2 ferocious bites in there, great. Like if you're in Berserk, you'll definitely hit that. You could probably hit 3. If you're off Berserk,
Right.
it's just going to completely depend on your 4-piece
Okay.
and how much energy you've got.
Okay. How about ring shenanigans, tips and tricks and stuff for rogues? So you can go into like different specs too if you want, Vigi. What
yeah, make sure CDs are up for a ring, otherwise you're gonna have a very bad time.
do you?
I'm just saying, make sure your CDs are up.
Okay. Next, is that it?
I mean, I don't know, like, I mean, the ring just like sinks well with rogues in general. It's the best way to put it.
Well, what's your
Also for combat, don't be afraid of quote unquote padding with Blade Flurry, and then smartly dumping that damage into the boss.
into the boss? With
Yeah.
do you? Well, I guess what I'm wondering is there a? I'm mixing my words here. I'm trying to like figure out what I want to say. Is there a order of operations for rogue to like prep before or right into the ring, or does like a whole lot not change? Like I know with subtlety, you have to time your vanish into it, and then
Well,
how does
yeah.
that?
I mean, how the vanish thing works.
Yeah, like what's the timing of like your A, B, C, D? The ring's coming up. Like what do you do
Okay,
before and during it?
so-
Like how does it work?
Hopefully you played well, and your vanish is up for ring.
Okay.
Basically, ring comes up, you hit your vanish, you do your ambush, you do your vitiate. You instantly hit Shadow Dance too, because before this tier, you didn't want to sync up your vanish's find weakness and your Shadow Dance's find weakness, because it would lead to lower find weakness uptime.
Okay.
But now, since you get the 30% damage increase after you vanish, it suddenly becomes viable to stack them sometimes. So.
So you actually, that's what I was curious about, because you have
So
2 different
not
versions.
only are you getting the bonus from the ring,
Yeah.
you're actually also you're also increasing your Shadow Dance by another 30% from the tier bonus and 15% from the Master of Subtlety bonus. So
Just a lot of compounded. I would
Yes,
assume most of
yeah.
this stuff is just.
and then you've got your find weakness on the target,
Yeah.
which it's 100% armor penetration. So
is
basically, when everything is going on, I can get 300k ambushes.
it's
Same with my Vesper's also for 300k too. So, and that's without soul cap being factored in. So
Sure. There's an awkward amount of. That's what I wonder what they're going to change in Legion, because sometimes not a lot of the players out there really realize how many like weird stacking damage increases you can kind of do in short periods of time now, where so much comes down to in Warlords like these burst windows for many different classes, and the timings of these RNG windows of amazingness, where sometimes you wouldn't think about having all of these up at the same time or doing them all at the same time. So is that just kind of how Rogue has just evolved over the course of this expansion?
I mean, I wouldn't say evolved. It's like Sub has always kind of had it.
Okay.
It's just like the tier bonus gave us another thing on top of everything else.
Right. Yeah, you just got compounded with all these different like pluses
Yeah.
and everything. Is it all
Yeah,
additive
we've
bonuses?
got tier bonus now. We've got soul cap. We've got ring. Like all 3 of those got added this tier for Sub. So
Yeah, and you get your Master Subtlety bonus. You've got
yeah,
your
we've
Find
always had Master
Weakness.
Subtlety. We've always had find weakness.
You have
We've always had Shadow Dance.
Shadow Dance timing within Shadow Reflection. Like
Yeah. You've always timed SR and Shadow Dance to be at the same time, roughly.
yeah, it's one of those cooldown things that doesn't make sense. I mean, the different effects.
I mean,
but
I don't know. I don't like Shadow Dance. Or no, I love Shadow Dance. I don't like Shadow Reflection.
oh, Reflection, yeah, right. I don't think a lot of rogues.
Not many
have-
rogues like it. It's kind of.
And the
Yeah.
dabbling I've done with Rogue, it's just kind of a boring talent, really.
Is it?
I
Yeah.
think a lot of rogues would have rather Shadow Blaze became a talent at level 100, and Shadow Reflection never exists. That is a consensus opinion.
I mean,
for the most part.
there have been a lot of bouncing around. Obviously, this is the first full expansion with the new talent system because it became a thing in MOP, and that was like the beta test of it. And now it's the first real expansion they've added to it. And a lot of problems have been found in the balancing of inter-tiers of talent choices. So just get in there. If your class, you specifically are part of your class community and you have issues, or there are problems, that there are droughts in your talent stuff, when the beta comes out for Legion, don't just bitch about stuff. Give evidence, give thoughts, give theory, give suggestions, show work you've done, help out the beta process, because nothing happens when people just like, oh my god, my talents suck, Blizzard, please. That doesn't do anything. So, which happens a lot.
Rogues gave feedback on Death from Above last beta.
Yeah, we gave so much
I'm
feedback
hoping.
on.
Very little change.
Yeah, because Hurricane Strike, like I made the clip about PvP earlier, and yeah, it's even worthless there. Like I always try it on PTR and stuff. Hey, maybe the change to it is good. Nope, still trash. And so I think a lot of classes are kind of shoved in this corner where they have maybe technically 2 talents on a tier.
Right.
And, in terms of Windwalker, I think Hurricane Strike would be great if they could change it into basically maybe being our, Burst Cleave talent instead of just being this weird, awkward, well, it sounds like it should be good for PvP, but the truth is it's just trash. So, yeah, and I think that that's pretty common with a lot of classes, that there's just one that's incredibly underpowered, and then the other 2, especially for hybrids, might be good in this situation or that situation.
There's weird hidden things that aren't always to the player's eye, like for enhancement. I just totally brain farted now all of a sudden on the thing I was gonna say. Oh my goodness, the Elemental Blast has a 50% less damage modifier for Enhancement Shaman. It just does 50% less damage. So automatically that talent is like just garbage can. So not every class has something that extreme, but there are awkward examples of that. So I wonder how much will change.
Windwalker actually has something very similar. Our Chi Explosion actually works completely different from Mistweaver and Brewmaster. Not just because it's a level 100 talent that they did for different classes, but because it's actually taking a different formula than what theirs are. Ours is like 45% of our attack power, whereas theirs is something like 80% to 100%. I forget which. I don't theory craft for them anymore. Never have. And also ours does a meteoring effect, whereas theirs doesn't. And it's all to try to kind of balance us. And so now we're really underpowered at AoE.
Are you talking about like the Red Crane Chi Explosions with the damaged version?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I worry more about Brewmaster because I understand Brewmaster a heck of a lot better than Mistweaver.
Right. Yeah, there are. That's why I kind of wish that this was just be on the tooltips and be transparent, because having to like find them in like logs is just kind of like disingenuous to the players. We have theory crafters and amazing math heads for almost every class and spec out there in their different communities, but then finding out these like hidden, we don't want you using this talent for this spec things, or like the different weak iterations, like all this back end math, it's kind of awkward. I hope they, in the plug today, we go over the fact that they just really ironed out that PvP and PvE are really separated in Legion. So hopefully we'll see a lot of fixes for the 2 sides of the game, because some of the implications are because of that.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is because it seems like, most classes have at least 1 trash talent tier. I would hate to actually see it go down to 2 talents. I think that that's not enough choice.
Of course. Right.
Yeah. I would love to see, though, a lot of those cases just have it adjusted, have it changed to something that's actually desirable.
Right.
Or interesting, or at least it fits in with a fight or 2.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe actually makes Windwalkers useful, or Feral Druids. No offense or anything.
Yeah.
No offense.
Untaken.
No offense or anything. Anything else on this? We kind of like wrapped in the talent talk. I didn't know if we really needed to, because this is like all part of.
No.
What you got, Vidge? Anything?
We're gonna go over like the talents for each spec though. In a bit,
Well, I
right?
mean, like we can do that now. We're kind of all in the same place right now for that. Is there anything that comes
there
up?
is something that has somewhat changed for combat this tier. Not so much this tier, but so going into Foundry, combat, for example, for its level 90 tier, ended up switching from Marked for Death over to Anticipation because of the tier bonuses. Without the tier bonuses, though, And especially with these new tier 18 bonuses, marked for death as combat becomes really good for the fights you want to play combat on in Hellfire Citadel. And a lot of rogues don't even realize that yet.
Why is that for combat exactly?
Basically because when you mark for death, with good mouse over macro usage, you can like mouse over some little ad that's about to die and get 5 free combo points off the GCD, no energy, just 5 free combo points. And like that actually becomes pretty powerful on a fight like Hellfire Assault. I mean, even though it's not much of a fight. Zul'Harrak, Mythic, Iskar, Mythic Manaroth, because there's so much you can just mark for death.
Now, what you're marking for death is things that are going to die soon. So
like for example, on Zul'Harrak and Manaroth, you're marking for death imps that come like once every 20 seconds or so on Zul'Harrak.
Right.
25. Yeah.
And
and like basically you can also mark for death like the little void ads that also spawn, and suddenly you can get sometimes 3 resets a minute. That is huge.
And you're using those 5 combo points into the boss, right? Though.
Oh yeah, you're getting eviscerates, and that feeds into the tier bonuses for for combat this tier, where your AR has first the combat tier bonuses. One of them, your Slice and Dice has a chance to proc Adrenaline Rush.
Sure. Okay.
For a few seconds. And then the other tier bonus is that when you have Adrenaline Rush up, you do 25% increased damage.
Okay.
So basically what happens is the more ARs you can get off, the more damage you do.
Of course.
Even more so than last tier. And basically these free combo points equals more marked for deaths, more killing sprees, which equals more damage. So
that's a lot of... I don't know if I've ever heard of that being taken to advantage of, because I imagine... I would hope it has to be, because
it takes some getting used to and some gaming. Because you got to like pay attention to your unit frame plates.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to mark for death the proper ads without, mark for deathing the boss by accident, for example.
Because you're watching for more or less...
low health ads.
Yeah.
And like, for example, sometimes in Zul'Harrak, you can actually get 2 mark for deaths off on each imp wave if you're really good, or like they don't die at the same time. So
ooh, yeah, that's
that is massive.
Is that intended though, do you think?
Oh, it's intended. That's how the talent works.
Yeah.
But it takes, you can mess it up. You really can. So it does actually give combat, a certain, I wouldn't say a skill cap, but like it does increase the skill level of combat.
A certain je ne sais quoi with the with the spec. Okay.
I mean, it's kind of like, I guess Warlocks and Shadowburn or Shadow Priests and they're Shadow Word Death.
Right.
Like, smart usage can net you some DPS increases.
Anything like that for Feral Druids, Tenderhoof, sir?
Unfortunately, not really. Our DPS talents are pretty fixed. We only have 2 DPS talent tiers, and that's 160. 60, yeah. So yeah, you're gonna take.
So Force of Nature.
The talent no one used ever. Oh yeah, it's gonna be. You're always gonna take. Oh my God, why can't I think of it now? King of the Jungle. You're always going to take Incarnation. You're always going to take Blood Talons.
Yeah.
For a little while in Foundry, you could take Lunar Inspiration, because it was, if you stayed on the platform for Maidens, it was really good.
Yeah.
But if you went off the platform, then it really wasn't worth it. Or you could do it on Hans and Franz, and to a smaller degree on Twin Ogryn.
Right.
But because they buffed Rip and Rake right before going into Hellfire, it's just it doesn't keep up, because it's not buffed by Mastery and it's not buffed by Savage Roar, so it just fell way behind. So I mean, our talents are, you set them and you forget them. Like the only one I've really modified at all this whole expansion has been 90, and they're not even very useful. It's just some fights you can try. Nature's Vigil is decent if you're under Berserk at the time. If you're not Berserking, it doesn't really give much back.
Doesn't do anything.
not really. And I mean, you can use Heart of the Wild, but that's kind of planning for if something's gonna go wrong. Otherwise, you might just not even use it at all. So,
I mean, that's
yeah,
what
there isn't a whole lot of different things that you can do that's not gonna just reduce your damage.
it's an awkward point when Druid, as arguably the first super hybrid, right, and the only class in the game that has 4 specializations. A lot of classes have like sometimes up to 4 different tiers of damaging ability talent tiers, and druids have all these different like movement, healing, CC, healing. So you're kind of left as a feral druid with only 2 options, and one is just giving you another 3-minute cooldown that you time up with Berserk. Woo, that's fun.
Yep.
And then Blood Talent, which is just like when you get Healing Touch procs, you heal Healing Touch and you do damage.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly how it is.
It's sad. You have all those cool other abilities too. I mean, the Typhoon versus Vortex, Mass Entanglement, like there's cool abilities here, but as a DPS...
Yeah, I was going to say they're not even really that cool because most of the time you don't want to be messing with the movement of the mobs that mobs might actually affect. The only time I've used Mass Entanglement ever was when I was on the ship on Maidens, and that's it. I have never used it for any useful PvE encounter ever, because why would you want to stop the ads? You want them to follow the tank.
Yeah.
So, the 2 CC lines has been kind of unfortunate. The 2 healing lines has been kind of unfortunate because they've toned the healing down so much.
Yep.
Probably again because of PvP. It's just not worth, taking a GCD out oftentimes to heal anymore.
Oh.
And it was a little bit at the beginning, but now that we have so many GCDs filled because of our Omen procs, it's rarely time to throw a Rejuve, and it's not even really that good anymore.
I'll be salty a little bit because Ancestral Guidance was like a really cool thing for enhancement in Elemental Shamans, but now it's like nerfed to the ground, and Nature's Vigil like crushes it.
Huh?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it crushes it.
Maybe not as feral, but I know as a balanced druid, that Nature's Vigil is pretty good though. Compared to AG.
It's because it doesn't proc off our bleeds. The only thing it procs off is if you're doing an actual attack.
Direct damage.
Yeah, so basically, if you're not under Berserk, it's going to be worse than AG. AG will actually do more if you're able to proc some of your stuff on it.
It's weird. They nerfed a lot of our hybridized like off healing from MOP to now, which good and bad.
Yeah.
But it makes us all feel...
Again, it's the PvP part, which is really frustrating.
Yeah. What about you, Callie? Anything you wrap up with talent stuff for Windwalkers? I'm sure there's plenty of things here.
Yeah, I mean, you usually go between your setups for AoE or single target. So your single target is typically... you're typically going to go with Serenity and Chi Brew. Depending on the fight, if you have any burst cleave, such as Hands on Cormac, you might go for Chi Burst, because that just allows you to pretend that, hey, maybe I can do a little bit of burst AoE, except you really still won't beat the warrior.
Right. Or the warlock.
Who does? Warlock. Yeah. Zuen and Rushing Jadewind used to be choices. Now we typically just stick with Zuen. Or sometimes you might go Chi Torpedo if you really want to sacrifice your role and go for a little bit of burst damage. A lot of the time, though, I admit that I kind of avoid this because for me it's kind of, in terms of melee, you have to be able to get in and out pretty quickly.
Sure.
Then in terms of pure single target, say Gruul, you might go with Zen Sphere, but I've actually been going with Chi Wave more because our Tier 18 set bonuses have us so GCD locked that you just don't have 2 GCDs for Zen Sphere. So you might as well just go with Chi Wave because the differences are incredibly negligible. For a pure AoE fight, let's say Hellfire Assault. Why you're in there? Hopefully because your guild has it on farm and because it's not a real boss fight.
Yeah, of course.
In that case, you're going to go with Chi Explosion and Ascension as well as Chi Burst. For your 75 talents, it's kind of going to depend more on, are you taking more magic damage or are you taking more physical damage? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be more magic damage, so you're going to go with Diffuse Magic.
Diffuse Magic is so good. Rushing Jadewind is still not becoming a thing?
Yeah. It was nice on Tectus. I got actually a couple of ranks on that early on using Rushing Jadewind, but because of the way that it interacts with Chi Explosion, we just never really have a reason to use it. It's such a fun spell, in my opinion. Like, I love its graphic, I love its gameplay, But unless it was pulled down to 30 energy or increased to giving us 2 chi, there's no real reason to play it with chi explosion. It just doesn't have enough return for us.
Yeah, it's that talent we talked about before in the Windwalker episode that it's just like it's too expensive for like the damage to energy conversions or whatever that the people find out.
Yeah.
Like it's just under budgeted still. Yeah.
Extremely for
okay.
Windwalker, in part because of the perks that we got for SDK, but also because it just didn't really grow up with us and in leveling.
Fidji, you had something?
If we're gonna talk about over budgeted, under budgeted finishers,
Yeah.
Death from Above. Basically, if
Oh,
they,
don't. Ugh.
I need to just say it one more time. Okay, they need to either A, reduce the energy cost down from 50, and or B, make it so that it doesn't interrupt your auto attacks for the duration of the fly.
Yeah, didn't we talk about that
It's such
before
a cool
back in the
looking
day?
ability, and I want to be able to use it, but it's just I don't know. Like, supposedly there's like maybe a possibility on like certain burst AoE situations. I think at like 5 or 7 plus targets.
Yeah.
It might be okay.
Didn't we talk about back in the day that when you use Death from Above, because an animation locked almost cast time, that your auto attack, because it stops, shouldn't you like be throwing shurikens or like daggers should fly out of you
like
based
that.
on your
Like
auto
that.
attack?
I hope they fix that in Legion. I really do. I want to be able to use Death from Above. It's a really cool looking ability.
But it's
not yet.
Almost like a DPS.
Today is not that day that rogues use it. Maybe one day.
Today's not that day. Oh my. Well, alrighty. I'll move us along real quick here. Tell Chatter about some things, some other communities and websites, and some announcement-oriented stuffs before we get into the Q&A live part of the show. So, if you are coming back to the World of Warcraft, or you have been away for a while, or your guild has never really worked on combat logs before, because maybe like Warcraft logs is like super scary and it's awesome, but it's a little bit of information overload, I will suggest to you the Ask Mr. Robot logs. They have a really nice log system going on AMR, which is very easy to use and upload with their app. I'm going to look up myself randomly here real quick, I think. My logs are kind of old. I haven't uploaded them in a while, admittedly, because I was doing it for testing when you first created them. But all you do is go there, you look at yourself, and let's just look at a Gruul Mythic back in the day. And everything is very graphical on these. They're very much overwhelming damage, shatter, avoidable damage, all these different little, like, and avoidable damage shows the different types of damage that are avoidable in the overhead stuff, and flare and cave-ins, how your DPS was. This is like a wipe uploaded just to test the logs for the show. But you have like a medium DPS here. It compares yourself to all the other people that are logging. They just added rankings recently. But everything is very like simple and easy to look at, and very nicely color-coded, all by classes. So if you are scared of logs and you haven't ever tried them before, I suggest giving it a try. Go over to AskMrRobot.com, get their little app, their little desktop app, and you can start using combat logging right here. The statistics right now, the DPS wipe rate, stuff like that, you can pull up different bosses. We're on Gruul here real quick. Let's actually bounce over here to, let's do Mythic. Let's pull up, let's see, how about Iron Reaver? So, item level average of people that are actually killing this boss. Not a whole lot of, actually, this is 95th percentile. Let's go to 50th. Maybe there's a little bit more. No? Damn it. Let's do Heroic Iron Reaver. There we go. You can go in here and you can compare yourself to other people that are killing the fight and uploading. You can see the medians percentages based on the different types of specs that are really performing well. It's all really, really easy to look at. And it's very easy to digest. As I cannot speak anymore, you can then, of course, just vary it down, and you can turn off classes that you don't want to look at. If you're looking at only, like, warriors, for example, you can hide all and then go, I want to look at Arms Warrior. Or I want to look at Shadow Priest. All very good. I think it's a lot of help if you are scared of logs and haven't used them before. Of course, if you need to look up anything from the past show, FinalBoss.tv is our website. I have an issue with updating the 91st episode of the Square Table Chat, but all of our episodes can be found on our website, as with all of our live stream, the episodes on YouTube, as well as the podcast, if you want to catch something in iTunes or Stitcher, as well as the audio-only versions are right here. And the new thing that I'm going to give you guys another plug for because they're super awesome. If you want to help support the show and get something back for doing it, we have an official store through Designed by Humans, which has got art cases, art prints, phone cases, sweatshirt hoodies, baseball tees, tank tops, different kinds and cuts, as well as different t-shirts. The newest ones, of course, are the Little Final Bosses by Faye Bellina. We also have the both shirts for Method's Mythic World First Black Hand, as well as Hellfire Citadel. Let me see if I can grab the little Arthas picture here. Of course, my internet's going to be incredibly slow right now because everything's going on, but we'll see. If you have, of course, purchased them and you want to help support the show, we really appreciate it. I was going to plug MMO Champion as well, but the website exploded on me during the show. MMO Champion, oh, there it goes. There, it might be on the show right now watching us, but they just did a huge write-up of the Legion PvP discussion. If you guys want to know about PvP stuff coming out in Legion, huge write-up from the Warlords PvP and the Legion PvP differences and the different changes coming to that side of the game. This is not a PvP-oriented show, but this coverage right here on MMO Champion will definitely satiate you for now as more stuff rolls out. And of course, if you were wondering what these episodes are going to be, this is episode 1 of 8 of this catch-up junket. Next week will be ranged DPS. I'll be on 3 people for that one as well. Then we'll do tanking and then healing. And there's a special episode, and there's another DPS for melee, range, tanking, and healing again. So we're trying to catch up with all the classes we haven't talked to in a long time and talk about the ring meta and get through all the different finaglings of talents and all this goofiness with trinkets into that for Tier 18 Hellfire. So, with that, though, we're going to move into some live Q&A for the next 25 minutes or so with chat room. If you guys have questions about rogues, Windwalker monks, or feral druids, that's what we're talking about on the show today, then please feel free and we'll grab some from chat as they fly by our faces. And we will do our best to pinpoint them and help you guys figure out what you might have missed or have curiosities about. We'll cover Warlocks in the second range DPS catch-up episode. So a couple weeks from now. Couple weeks from now. I don't know if I didn't catch any crazy questions during the main part of the show, but is wearing Tier 2 Bloodfang set confirms a DPS increase for rogues. DPS increase if you transmog to it, because it looks awesome, right, Vigi? Right?
What? Huh?
Bloodfang.
I don't actually transmog to Bloodfang much. I go with Tier 3 Bone Scythe on my rogue, so.
Oh, there you go. How do you feel about your class being replaced with Demon Hunters?
I don't know what you're talking about. All the other Agi melee are getting replaced by Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
And Survival Hunters.
Oh, poor Survival Hunters. Well,
I've already made the reroll joke.
You did.
Yep.
I'm not re-rolling.
Enhancement.
Might not be good, but I'm not re-rolling.
Who's going Demon Hunter? Not me.
I'm probably going to level 1, see if I enjoy it. If I enjoy it, I'll consider it. But the way I see it, I know that everyone and their mom is going to, so might as well have it on the sidelines after they're all done quitting.
I can definitely see myself having a Demon Hunter as like a primary raiding alt. I mean, but I don't think it'll surpass my rogue yet. I don't know. Maybe rogues will be like Hyma level and Demon Hunters are going to be like OP as hell, and everyone's going to be rolling Demon Hunter because they're just better than everyone else.
So Vigi, it was brought up again in chat about that at the beginning of Tier 18 it was all about like assassination was the way to go. We went over this at the beginning of the show. Did you want to like wrap up again why it's now all about subtlety and combat?
Subtlety set bonuses got buffed.
Okay.
That's the best way to put it. And combat was always really good on Clee fights.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of questions about SDI or 4-piece and Chi Explosion.
Ooh.
Here's the thing. The math doesn't support it being better on single target. No spreadsheets, no sims. This is something that Hina and I tested pretty much at length every beta cycle. Do we use Chi Explosion now for single target? Nope. Okay. The thing with Chi Explosion as well as Serenity is the fact that Serenity is a harder rotation. It absolutely is. It's probably one of the harder rotations, not the hardest. I don't feel comfortable saying that since I don't play every single class in spec. But it is definitely much harder to get to, the best damage you can do with Serenity versus Chi Explosion. I think right now, Chi Explosion's in a weird spot because it's basically jab, Chi Explosion, keep Tiger Eye Brew up, and the fact that SDI does have a weird modifier for Rising Sun Kick in terms of Chi Explosion. The thing is that it's basically correcting it because you're not getting as many casts of it as per Blackout Kick. So if you look through logs, yeah, some have good RNG, but I haven't noticed more cast for RSK to a staggering amount versus Serenity single target. So I think that's the one thing that people need to understand is that Serenity is a much harder rotation. The math actually does not necessarily support Chi Explosion. No sims do, and no spreadsheets do. So if you feel more comfortable doing Chi Explosion, because let's face it, it's a much easier rotation, go ahead.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing the best damage you can, that's fantastic, because that's what you should be doing as a DPS. If you're finding that you're not hitting that high end of Serenity damage, well, you're not alone. I don't think most Windwalkers can. Serenity is absolutely difficult because you have to consider the timing for it. You have much more maintenance in terms of which spells you're casting and such. Whereas, again, Chi Explosions, jab, jab, Chi Explosion. Oh, just keep Rising Sun Kick up. It's a lot easier and much more simplified rotation. And that's why you're seeing so many higher logs with Chi Explosion as a target.
You're not doing 4 Chi Explosions?
Oh, yeah, you should be. Yeah, like I said, it's jab, jab because your jabs give you 2 Chi, so it's
2 Chi, 2 Chi. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's what I was wondering. Make sure people didn't mishear that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It was asked earlier, kind of. I don't know, it was kind of a jabby question, I suppose. Why wasn't I talking about Enhancement Shaman? I do here and there, but I am the host of the show. I don't talk about my class the whole show. But since I'm doing two melee DPS catch-up episodes, then some enhancement stuff will of course come up. If you have different questions, you can always come by the live stream or hit me up on Twitter. So I'm not gonna muddle the show down. This is about the guests, not about me. So there's a question I grabbed from chat. As a feral, do you change your opener with Soul Capacitor proc and Ring? Do you start with 2 Ferocious Bites instead of Rip?
No, Rip is still going to be doing plenty of damage that's going to go into the Soul Cap proc. So trying to squeeze 2 Ferocious Bites, you're not going to gain a lot, but you'll be behind because then you'll have to be trying to get Rip up outside of your opener. So it's better just to get Rip up first and then do another Ferocious Bite right afterward.
Okay. You can't plan, obviously, on Soul Capacitor, like, being okay. And on the pull, I'd imagine there's a weird downtime of the combo point class. You have to, like, build up and you don't get full benefit on the pull to some degree because you don't already have a Rip and a Rake rolling. You have to apply them. So, right?
Well, you do have to apply them, but you may not get as much. The second proc that comes right after the first proc, you'll probably get more of.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna be able to fill every single GCD on the opener, so it's not that big a deal if you spend 1 GCD to have Rip going.
Okay. There's another fair question that came up too. Do you use Shred and Ferocious Bite instead of Rake and Rip when Ringer Capacitor is up, even if they drop off?
It depends at what point. Like, if it's the very end, yeah, I'd probably get in a Ferocious Bite over Rip ticking, but Rip still does a lot of damage, even on the hit. So, I'm still going to be making sure that it's ticking. And the initial hit, it's not like I'm applying a bleed that doesn't do any damage. It still does damage. So if it's at the very beginning, yeah, I'm still going to do it. If it's at the very end and it's the choice between Rip or another Shred, yeah, I'm probably going to go Shred because 1 second of downtime is not that big a deal. But yeah, I'm not going to ignore it for the all 10 seconds.
Okay, so there's a bit of a leeway on when you want to refresh which dots based on the timer left. That's why I said earlier today, having a weak aura that is the countdown timer progress bar for the duration of Soul Capacitor is very helpful. Having one that also tracks the Malice Legendary Ring proc is also very good too. So you can like see how much time you have left and how much time you can like work out in your head in that split second and how many GCDs you can get left and what abilities you can put up. Yeah. Why does Subtlety feel like flying a space shuttle, managing so many timers and such? Does it need a rework? Flying a space
no, I
shuttle?
actually like how Subtlety plays out. It's really fun. Like,
yeah?
I mean, you gotta manage your Vanish, you gotta manage your Shadow Dance. You gotta make sure you actually have energy when you Shadow Dance, otherwise you're gonna be, like, standing there for a few seconds, not ambushing, which is a DPS loss.
Okay.
You need to make sure you don't hit premeditation when you have 5 combo points, otherwise you lose those 2 extra combo points from premed.
Ooh.
You gotta make sure... you got to make sure that with your backstab and ambush multi-strikes, that it doesn't make it so that your rupture ends up falling off. So, you gotta keep it up. I don't know, like, I just, yeah, I think sub is, like, more complicated than assassination in combat, but it's a fun spec. It really is.
It's always been a weird place. I feel that subtlety was, no one ever used it until it, like, was actually good, then everyone used it. Like, it's happened multiple times in Myst. It happened at the beginning of Tier 17. So, like,
Didn't it happen at the very end of Kata 2?
I don't.
I mean, subtlety, like, it needs to be better than assassination or combat by a decent enough margin. Otherwise, people aren't going to use it because
Sure.
there is that increased complexity where you can mess it up quite badly. In fact, like, that's why I think, like, you don't see many rogues in, like, LFR using subtlety, because it takes a little more skill than, like, assassination, which, for all intents and purposes, it's rupture, hit mutilate, pool some energy, hit your envenom, boom. That's your rotation in a nutshell.
Reading through here. Let's see. There was something that came up about speculation on Survival Hunter being a melee class. The question was about dual wield versus two-handing, but they've already been basically said that it's a
they're gonna have a
two-hand
spear,
class.
so it's gonna be a two-handed class.
To help with the Feral
I
Druid
mean, Hunter, it's gonna be
Windwalker.
fun translogging that polearm into a sword.
Yeah. I don't know.
Everything's gonna be a hunter weapon.
I don't know if we feel. How do we feel about having another melee come into the mix though with Demon Hunters? That's like a question I could bring up.
And Survival Hunter.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Demon Hunter and Survival Hunter. We have two new melee coming into the midst.
I mean, for
Good
most
luck.
people, it won't be an issue because, okay, I think most people, like, they don't do Mythic, so their raids are flexible as is.
Sure. Okay.
But
yeah.
Mythic, I personally think that they should go back up to 25 man. It's my own opinion. I know a few people in the community share it.
Yeah.
Other people may not, but again, it's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, yeah, the thing that Blizzard has always said,
I personally wouldn't
melee.
be opposed to it, but
Yeah, Blizzard said several times that they think that melee is actually better balanced than range, and melee aren't worse, and that the community just seems to have bias against melee.
Are they playing the same game?
Right? And it's like, yeah, I mean, every melee you ever have, like, the mechanics definitely are harder. It's much easier to die. You know, if the boss goes on anyone, it's probably going to go into melee, unless the mage pulled, but, you know, that's a special case. So my thoughts on it are basically, I run so many alt raids and off night raids, and 9 times out of 10, all of our ranged go melee, and of course the melee already know the secret, so they're already playing melee. And yeah, I'm not too crazy about it, but at the same time, we all knew that Demon Hunter would eventually be added, and we all knew that it would make sense for it to be melee. So I'm in a weird spot. I'm very conflicted.
You're just gonna play one, so why do you care?
Yeah, that's true. I already play a melee though, so I've already claimed that.
You're just changing your weapons and you're putting
I'm not the
tattoos
Shadow
on.
Priest who's going melee. No, I'm the melee going
She's
melee.
gouging out her eyes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
well, that's
the
among
assumption that they made at Gamescom that melee are only the ones going to be switching to Demon Hunters, I thought was a bit on the naive side.
Oh, of course.
Like, it's a new shiny everyone's going to want to try. You know, it's not a great thing to add yet another melee class. That's another agility or another agility leather.
Who doesn't want to shoot fell-powered laser beams from their eyes?
From their
I know, right?
Ah,
From their freaking eyeballs. It's actually
Literally.
apparently a Cone of Cold-esque effect too, where it's like a skill shot.
Yeah.
You can miss it. So, a monk question came up: remove or prune Tiger's Prom and integrate into Blackout Kick or Fist of Fury. Every problem solved. Thoughts? This is a quality of life change.
As a Windwalker, looking at it in a vacuum, abso-frickin-lutely. I think that Tiger Palm, it's just another buff to maintain. It doesn't matter as much for Chi Explosion. And frankly, it is button bloat. I mean, we now have a debuff to maintain, a buff to maintain, as well as another buff to maintain if you're playing Chi Explosion, since you basically have Tiger Eye Brew turn into Savage Roar. So yeah, the problem exists more that it takes away something for Brewmaster to spam. So, you know, the thoughts I've had of it are. Well, it gives Windwalker something that's, one chi, which makes our rotation interesting. And on the other hand, I don't really think that it really makes the rotation all that interesting. I feel like it is button bloat, and I feel like it would be a huge quality of life change. It would simplify the class a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily opposed to that.
There is a weird balance between what classes got simplified and pruned to a degree that felt good, others that didn't at all, or others that got way too far beyond. Warriors.
I'll put it this way. I play at 100, I have my monk, I have an enhancement shaman, I have a rogue, I have a ret paladin, and I have a druid. My monk is the only one that has actually almost every possible keybound. Everything else has like half the keybinds. Every time I get another class to 100, I'm like, well, where the hell are all my abilities? Because I'm so used to having everything full. I'm like, oh yeah, class pruning. That's a thing.
That's the thing. There's a weird... I hope more of that happens going to Legion, because there is a inconsistency right now.
Absolutely. And, you could argue, oh, well, monks, they were designed right before, so maybe they're more fluent. No, I think Tiger Palm is just... It feels like such an outdated ability to me.
It's just... I would hearken that to, like, Searing Totem for enhancement. It's just like...
Yeah.
It's there. I have to keep it down every minute, and it's there. But how interactive is that? Nothing.
Yep.
Doesn't do anything. Does some damage, sure, but I'm not
it
gonna
does
say
that stacking buff thing, but did when I played it.
I-Beam for Demon Hunters is based off the look I get on my face when reading hotfix notes. Is that true, Magdalena? Is that actually hotfix notes? Laser. Okay, fair enough.
4 DKs this tier. Going from like kind of OP to like let's bring him from grips.
There's a question.
Well, isn't that where you bring DKs?
Yeah, I know. That's
Anti-Magic Zone.
Oh, R.I.P. Anti-Magic Zone. Do you guys feel that Enhancement Shaman will actually be top tier next expansion? In parentheses, for once? Question mark. Wow. Okay. Tell me how you really feel, Vigi.
That is mean.
Tell me how you really
I
feel.
thought Enhancement Shaman did okay in MOP. I mean, they had a huge repertoire of cooldowns. And they did a lot of damage.
I don't think a hybrid class will ever be like the top, though.
No,
but I mean, the only time that we were like amazing was on Mythic Cho'Gall, and then after Iliayo crushed it, we got nerfed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Vigilab is god tier.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, as I said, I think if they went back to 25-man, I think that would help Melee in general, because 20-man kind of screwed over Melee.
You only have like 4 or 5 slots. Yeah.
Yeah, like, especially the Melee hybrids, because like they may not like be all god tier, but like some of them like excel at certain things. And back in 25-man, like that, like you could actually fit like Windwalker monks, ret paladins, enhancement shamans into your main roster, and be fine. Because they like excel at their little thing on the fight. They may not be god tier like the warriors and rogues or DKs in some circumstances, but they'd still do fine.
Wow, Ladia. OMG, 3 future demon hunters. Okay. Especially adding 2 more Melee. And of course, what's going to happen is watch like Survival Hunter be like the best hunter spec, though, at launch for the first tier. And then, of course, they get nerfed into the ground because it's too good. Because they want to... we'll have to see. All the hunters will be like, I don't want to go Melee, but it does 15% more damage than Marksman, but I guess I got to do it. I hope. Just beta test, please. Beta test.
Flood the forums with feedback of survival sucks. Please don't drop it.
Yeah.
Sorry, hunters.
That's on top. You said someone asked about the daggers for feral artifact weapon. If they're daggers, or they should be, if they are or not.
I don't really like the idea. I kind of like the staff. As a giant cow, having 2 daggers in my hands looks kind of silly to me, and I'm so used to having the staffs that going to daggers doesn't really make me that interested.
With giving survival polearm priority, though, it's supposed to help because only 2 classes use them now, and arguably Windwalker didn't until very recently. So I thought the whole point of survival giving two-hand was also because Druid's two-hand, and so is Windwalker Monk is two-hand, agility staves, and pole arms. I hope it is, because what do you... little daggers on a Feral Druid? Seems awkward. And you don't have one, would you just suddenly get dual-wielding just because, or just have one?
Yeah, right. No, it would be two, but I mean, they can just make anything that they want since it's the same weapon. They don't really have to make the stats special. I mean, you can still. It's just a visual thing. So they're gonna fill the weapons into the slots, so it can look like we have two daggers, and that would be okay. I just don't like. I don't like the lore of it. I like having a staff.
Oh, I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you completely. Well, see, there's the other thing now, too, as Eladia says, but only hunters use a bow. And then, of course, the question before it was, what do you think of the possibility of a Dark Ranger spec for rogues? A rogue ranged spec.
I don't think it's going to happen this expansion. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess...
We need another bow spec,
could,
though.
I
Someone else
guess
should
you could, make Assassination, that sniper spec. But isn't that what marksmanship does? I don't know.
It is weird that bows and
Yeah.
guns are only used by one class, and now
I mean, I
only
guess
two specs of one class
I
in
think
the game.
rogues have stuff there,
To
like,
be of ranged class.
and the talents that if they were to, balance them, they could actually have a ranged rogue
Mm.
through Shuriken Toss and Deadly Throw. But the talents are just shit.
Clipper.
I'm sorry, they're shit.
Clipper, no, Bay. I want
Yeah.
all the bows, mine.
Uh,
Okay.
who knows? Maybe they will introduce a rogue ranged playstyle that's somewhat viable, and suddenly you have all your rogues doing ranged DPS. I feel like that would be a little overpowered though.
Yo,
but-
Shuriken Toss would be a real thing.
Yeah.
Shuriken
Yeah.
Toss. Oh goodness.
Just make the Archimon trinket for sub like baseline, and suddenly your Eviscerate has like is a ranged attack. So
You just throw this
you throw a glaive
punch.
at the
Oh, you
target.
throw a glaive.
Yeah.
I had suggested in
I
our
don't think it's happening, though.
our
Sorry.
pre-show talking about what if they made Assassination Rogue like Kratos from God of War, where he was like a mid-ranged class, but all his daggers were on like the chains, throwing them out, doing abilities with them, and spinning them around, and throwing poison vials and stuff.
Why not do that with like survival hunters?
Well,
know,
Survival Hunter is
Spears. Hey.
Survival Hunter is basically
chains
the
on them.
Predator with the
Yeah.
pet in melee. So
I mean, spears have chains on them sometimes in combat. So
Hmm.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of
Fun.
people talking about Windwalker going ranged, and what they don't understand is that we're already ranged. It's just that our range is at the point that we go to a different class.
oh my god, yeah.
no, you just crackling Jade Lightning, all the things.
Yeah, or you could just, Chi Explosion. But
Yeah.
CGL doesn't give us
It's-
Chi anymore. I guess you'd have to go Power Strike so that
What's the range
that
of
way
that
you
again?
get,
40 yards, 30 yards.
yeah, something like that.
God's
Chi Explosion's
above.
30 yards. Yeah.
God's above. When I add a pistol to combat, they are pirates and they are doing the artifact.
Who knows? Maybe they will. That would be actually kind of cool.
One hand and a pistol. Are you gangplank? You're freaking. What did you say yesterday, Tinder? Oh, Cervantes.
Cervantes.
Yeah. Soul Calibur style for combat rogue.
What if they just make revealing strike a pistol shot type ability, like
Mm.
bam, suddenly hey range rogue works. Just take Shuriken.
They have to change
take deadly throw. Suddenly instead of sinister strike, you're doing Shuriken tosses. Instead
See?
of you're doing deadly throws.
Mm-hmm.
It works, Yeah, kind of. Probably not.
Kind of
but
not, but
it's
fair.
probably
Not
not gonna
really
happen.
enough abilities to throw. It seems
Yeah.
kind of boring to press
Yeah.
3 keys and you're it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's why I was saying, like, they need to have, like, an auto attack still, because World of Warcraft is still an auto attack oriented game. So it would be weird, because if you only had 2 daggers, like, those are your weapons, and you throw them, how do they just suddenly come back to you? They're not an ammo system. So it's.
What if you have like a pouch of limitless like throwing daggers?
Okay, what is anime space bag on your hip? Just
Hey man, Dungeons and Dragons, bottomless bag,
bottomless bags. Oof.
whatever like that really bottomless thing is.
Spinning Fire Blossom. Chat brings
I
up.
missed that.
Uh,
See,
Yeah.
that's the thing is that, in my opinion, the few abilities we lost are what really killed us in PvP, such as having Spinning Fire Blossom as our nice little ranged skill shot snare. I personally loved it without the glyph because, like I said, it was basically a skill shot snare. And now, if you see a Windwalker at PvP, they're probably getting carried or they're just someone off their rocker.
Wow.
There
Oh
is
my
no
God.
reason to play Windwalker in PvP. Absolutely none.
Jeez.
Hey, man,
That's
Hel-
why we had
hey,
Holinka
hey,
do
Holinka
it.
Holinka played a Windwalker monk in PvP.
That we
the other
made
day.
him.
Made
We pretty much
him.
forced
I
him.
know. I
made
voted
him.
for monk too.
Yep.
because-
So
We all
anything
love
else? Well, hunters used to not have infinite ammo, so
Yeah.
yep, they definitely
yeah, I
didn't always.
I have
let's-
a troll hunter that still has little gray arrows filling its bags.
Right, we'll bring up like how do warriors get the weapon back after they throw it? I know it's
Boomerang.
they're obviously Jedi. Anything else? I think we're just kind of like just riffing with chat room here about stuff. We answered a bunch of questions, I guess. Weapons could return to you by a magnetic gnomish or goblin engineering. Oh goodness, yeah. Captain America had it in Avengers 2. Well, we're not gonna okay. Captain America's shield is actually because of his perception and how he can bounce it off things and play pool in real life. Ba-ba-da-ba. Let's see, anything else? Yo-yo rogues.
I think there is one thing that Mags is going to have an aneurysm if I don't say is to just remind everyone that the IRC communities still exist. I believe
Yes.
Rogue is Ravenholt.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about
it's hashtag
Druid.
Ravenholt on
Yep.
on
QuakeNet.
QuakeNet.
Okay.
So then Windwalker is Peak of Serenity on Coldfront. Death Knight's on the same server in Icarus. And then there is actually a Demon Hunter one now, the Black Temple on Coldfront.
Yeah, I'm gonna link these in chat real quick. Son of a lich. I didn't have this prep because I didn't have enough windows.
I'll do
Ravenholt-
chi bursts.
Ravenholt likes to
Do chi burst. Do it.
Yeah,
The
because
druid one
apparently
is off
there's a
of Fluid
Venus.
Druid, right?
The IRC one is Moonglade.
Yeah.
Oh, but the website doesn't. There's not a website for Moonglade, right? It's still off Fluid Druid.
Well, Fluid Druid is where all the discussion happens. The IRC channel though is Moonglade.
Where is the?
Web chat, QuakeNet, Moonglade.
Okay, I didn't know if it was a front page I could link
okay,
for
so
chat.
it's the same IRC.
Oh,
group.
no.
It's like
Yeah,
Ravenholt
it's the
and
same group.
House.
Same group. Okay, but it's okay. Good. Get those out there. Nice. So yeah, if you want an IRC chat, of course you want to ask them more questions and things, and get with the guests and other amazing mathy heads or great players from the different classes. Please join your relative IRC. There'll be a lot of helpful stuff coming out there when the beta goes up, and of course new to the game. So any shaman forums, just the Elmo champion thread. That's about it. Sadly.
Don't they have Earth Shrine on Coldfront? Or,
I don't know
It's
about.
pretty quiet in there.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But I think it's time for the button, friends. Boop. Thank you all so much for tuning in to episode number 92 of Final Boss TV, your Wild Game Rating Show. This is episode 1 of 8 of the Warlords of Ketchup Junket. This was Agility Melee. I said next week is Range DPS. More information on which guests and which classes we're talking about on Twitter and social media. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook for updates on those. But around the table again to our guests, we'll start from where we did in the first place. There's Callie. You can follow her on Twitter at Callie Monk for Demon Hunter things. Or we'll see. We'll see. We don't know yet about the class changes. Maybe you're staying Windwalker Monk, Callie?
Maybe they'll actually make us viable. Okay, competitive. We're viable. We're just not competitive.
Competitive. There's the right word. But thank you for being on the show again. Always a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
You can also go follow Tinderhoof on Twitter as well at Tinderhoof. Go ask him Feral Druid questions and hopefully Feral Druid questions to continue. Sorry, you say you're not re-rolling. I have heard, right?
No, I'm not re-rolling.
Good. All right. Fair enough. You're gonna have fun leveling your 4 artifact weapons, though, right?
Yeah, 4 off.
Well, thank you for being on the show, sir. It's a pleasure as always have you back on. It's been a little while, but
Thank
appreciate the beard presence. It's good. I like it. And then there's Vigi. You can go
Yeah.
follow her on her Twitch stream at Vigilate. When are you
I
gonna
like
stream stuff?
I have actually streamed Mythic Archon Progression tonight. And
You are?
every night until dies.
Are you streaming
Yeah.
tonight?
Yes, I am streaming tonight. Our raid starts at 9:30 p.m. EST.
I'm gonna go watch you guys wipe all
Also-
night. Is that okay?
Also, follow me on Twitter at vigil_latte.
Yes.
But, yeah, you can find it on my Twitch page.
Exactly. And of course, only ask you rogue questions because you're not re-rolling.
I mean, I'll have a Demon Hunter. I don't know. Hey man, I don't know. Hey, if rogues are at high mall level, I will not play a rogue. If we're not at high mall level, I won't play.
Well, we'll hope. No more sock eating, hopefully, in the future.
I mean, hey, the sock eating was only for Blackrock Foundry.
Gotcha.
Oh, good.
But thank you all for tuning in, of course. If you missed part of the episode, it'll be up on YouTube tomorrow. Of course, iTunes and Stitcher to follow. If you have questions about range DPS, you can start sending them in, of course, to help me make the show notes. But next week is range DPS. I'll have to figure that out. I do believe I have written down here Balanced Druid, Shadow Priest, Elemental Shaman next week. We're going to go with the 3 range that aren't really pet classes, and we'll do pet class range DPS on the following range DPS episode. So you can send your questions for those if you have questions about that, or just save them for the after show part of the next episode. And we will see you there for that. Trusting your Seal of Inevitable Gold, Warforged Inevitable Gold if you're lucky. And until then, until the YouTube comments, till Twitter, we will see you all later, and thank you all for watching, and bye! Bye-bye, wave bye, nice people! Wave goodbye! Wave! Callie's got it! There we go! Vinci, wave bye! Wave bye!
Yeah,
bye!
bye.
Bye!